Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. So I want to talk about Caleb Williams of the Bears. So Jordan Palmer was on my show, I think it was Thursday, and I thought he made a really good point. I said, my criticism, if I have one of Caleb, he can be a little erratic. I talked to two GMs in the league about Caleb. They didn't need him. They have quarterbacks. And they both said he can be a little erratic. Sometimes he gets a bit sloppy. Mahomes does, or did early in his career. Mechanically, Patrick's running around. He just gets a little backyard football-y. And both the GMs I talked to with Caleb said he just has to get more in a rhythm, which he said, I think in the pros, he won't run around as much. He's a smart kid. He'll figure out, I don't want to get hit. The second thing is sometimes he's a little bit of a playmaker, a little bit of an ad-libber. But Jordan Palmer said, listen, he got bored with college. He was the Heisman winner, right? His first year at USC. And then USC can't stop anybody his second year. And he's like, okay.
And the O-line's terrible.
Terrible. And he's like, we're not a national championship team. And Jordan said, when I watched him, I saw a guy that was bored out of his mind. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So when you get bored, you lose focus. When you lose focus in any job, you get a little sloppy. I thought Caleb was a little sloppy last year. And I think sometimes Lincoln Riley, because of the offensive line, really struggled with what to call. And I heard that inside the program is like Lincoln just didn't trust the protection. So he's like, I'm not getting Caleb Williams hurt. I'm not getting it, because he came all the way out to USC. First year, got pretty good protection, wins the Heisman. I think Lincoln feels like, it's worth it. This is going to be great. By the second year, halfway through it, I think Lincoln, what I was told is Lincoln there's things Lincoln wouldn't call. He didn't want to get him hurt. And so I think go back to the previous year. That's the Caleb Williams you're going to see in Chicago, which is focused, runs the play, can ad-lib if he has to. But Jordan's whole point was, don't judge too much in the last 5 or 6 USC games. Team was terrible. He was bored, ad-libbing a little bit more than he probably will in real life. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think if you go and watch every play that he had in that preseason game, he showed every tool in the toolbox. My mother could see that play that he made rolling to his right that he threw to Kmet. That's as good as it gets. That's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. But the play that he made, the little dump off to Swift, I don't think we talk enough about instincts as a quarterback. Some guys have them and some guys don't. And that means feel in the pocket. That means to know when it's not going to go well and I got rid of the ball immediately, or when I can keep a play alive. And I think the new trait that every team looks for is the scramble to throw and keep plays alive. But to scramble to throw, you need a good arm. It's what Aaron Rodgers built a Hall of Fame career on. He could throw outside the tackle box, ropes, accurately. And that's what Caleb Williams can do in spades. Because let's face it, all these teams in the NFL now, most teams have multiple sweet pass rushers. There aren't as many good offensive linemen in the league anymore. So you got to be able to move. And he's accurate, and the arm strength is just elite. Like you said, he's going to have a little hero ball, but how can you not have hero ball if that's the skill that he has? Patrick Mahomes, he had to get older and realize that we can play a little different. But early on, I want him to bring that to the table because he's accurate throwing the ball downfield if he has to move. Now, there's a difference of something was open. You didn't need to do that, but nothing was there. Your guard gets smoked. You got to move. But he did it all. He threw a sweet play, I think on the second or third pass of the game from the pocket. He had the crazy instinctive play to Swift. He had the play on the move. The other thing, I don't know if you saw Hard Knocks yet, but they kind of did this silly thing where they brought out a slip and slide to teach the quarterbacks how to slide. I'm sorry that they were joking about it, but also kind of serious. It's important. His right arm is the franchise, and he had a scramble where he slid. And he's going to have, I would say, depending on the game, anywhere from 2 to 5, could be 2nd and 8, could be 3rd and 8. He can scramble for 10 yards and pick up a first down. But when you scramble and you're not by the sideline, you got to fucking hit the ground. And you got to slide because they can't touch you, and the defenders know it. When you stay up, as J.J. McCarthy did in the game, and a lot of quarterbacks do it, you are going to get clipped, and you're going to get clipped hard. So if you're doing that, he can stay healthy because he can avoid his short area quickness is just elite, and then the
In
arm, he doesn't need much space to get that thing off.
Oh, no, very Mahomes. Like cognitively, see, get rid of it fast. It's very Marino at USC. He sees it, it's out fast.
Hey, football fans, if you're looking to dominate your fantasy league next year, then we've got the channel for you. From the NFL draft through training camp and week 1 to Super Bowl Sunday, Fantasy Pros is the home of football content you cannot afford to miss. Subscribe today, and your team will be in championship form in no time.
The other thing is Kyler and Russell Wilson were always great sliders because they were baseball players. They were great. Lamar was terrible his first 2 years.
Still, he still kind of plops. He's not natural at it.
He kind of jumps and sits.
But he learned how to avoid the hits. He can just get down.
That's right.
You know?
So I think some of that is Caleb I mean, like Russell Wilson and Kyler were just like, okay, they've slid in a second a lot. This is obviously the way they do it. Herbert was terrible his first 2 years. Like, dude, you're 6'5". You can't go straight on an outside linebacker. Like, I mean, he'd go shoulder high on a guy.
Josh Allen still does it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the other thing with Caleb, and by the way, this was Jordan Love. Jordan Love had a better year the year before he came out. And then he lost a coordinator. Remember that? He lost a coordinator. He lost a coach. He lost people. He was not very good as. So the Packers went to the previous year video and went, yeah, that's who he is. And so you take the best of what you saw, because obviously if you lose a coach at Utah State, if you have 3 coordinators at Utah State, 2 may stink. 1 may be okay. So when he had his best coaches, Green Bay looks at that and goes, okay, that's what he can be because our coaches are great offensively. So I think with Caleb, you go back a year and go, oh, when the O-line was healthy, he'd come over and Lincoln was not afraid. Remember that year, if they beat Tulane, they win 12 games. They were really, really smoking that year. The second year, I think I was told this, Lincoln it was a different play calling year, a different sensibility with Caleb. And he just wanted to make sure he didn't get hurt.
I think a lot of people in one talking point in football always is his arm strength a little overrated. Yeah. And then you watch Caleb play and you watch Mahomes and you watch Josh Allen or Herbert and you just go, BS. It's just not. Now, Greg Maddux is one of the greatest pitchers of all time. He did not throw that hard. But most of the other greats, Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Pedro was blowing 97. You kind of got to throw hard. And, Purdy can get away with it a little bit because his offensive scheme is so great and he's a good athlete. He can scramble. But Peyton Manning's one of the most accurate players in the history of the sport. Arm strength matters, and it always has, and it always will. And you see these plays, and you only see it even more once the regular season starts. All these former quarterbacks talk about the kind of space in college relative to the NFL of what's open. Things happen quick. A lot of things get screwed up, and you got to ad-lib, and that even puts more pressure on your arm. It ultimately can be the downfall of some of these guys that can't scramble and don't have a great arm. Like Cousins and Goff are good examples. When it's perfect, they can destroy you. They can have 4 or 5 touchdowns on you. But if you can throw them off, they can't move, and then they can't throw very hard on the move. So it's a major problem. You watch the modern day football player who's having a lot of success in the NBA. What is it? You got to shoot threes. You better be able to scramble and throw ropes, because all these young coaches want to get you on the move. And even when they're not getting you on the move, because more than likely you're going to have 2 or 3 offensive linemen that they would gladly replace if they could, you're going to be running for your life. And a lot of the good ones keep their eyes up, scramble, and throw. And Caleb, it's like, geez. I mean, it was to get up on Saturday morning and watch. And the final score was like 33-6. The Bills clearly didn't even care. But just to watch his physical attributes, you're like, wow. In an NFL, and they were a DJ Moore out there. They were trying, they wanted to get this guy some confidence, which is smart.
So Jaden Daniels is a really interesting player to me. He is skinny. It's not quite the Bryce Young where he looks like, honestly, the helmet's too big for him. It's not that, but he doesn't have the neck, the shoulders. He didn't have the width. So, I mean, that's kind of the reality of it. I remember watching him at Arizona State under Herm Edwards, and I'm like, he may weigh 170. Like, it just didn't look right. And then it looks like he's up to whatever it is, 2 something. There's a little Lamar. He's real quick. There's a little Jordan Love where he lets it fly. I said this the other day. What I like about Washington, everybody's new. I mean, owner, GM, coach, coordinator, players. It's almost like you're part of a huge recruiting class. Like the new coach comes in, the new Lincoln Riley comes in, it's all his guys, right? But he brings in the transfers, the recruiting class. And I feel like with Jaden, nobody's got seniority. Nobody's, there's nobody that's resentful of the new guys. Every single person in the building is new that matters. And I think that's important for young quarterbacks because I think sometimes what happens is a GM inherits a quarterback and is really not rooting for him. Sean Payton inherits Russell Wilson. He's just looking for reasons to move on.